He was the leading ghost story writer of his time, central to the development of the genre. M.R. James described Le Fanu as absolutely in the first rank as a writer of ghost stories. 3 of his best-known works are the locked room mystery Uncle Silas and the historical novel The House by the Churchyard, as well as the lesbian vampire novella Carmilla. Born in 1814 at 45 Lower Dominic Street in Dublin, his family were a mix of French Huguenot, English and Irish ancestry. When Le Fanu was quite young, his family moved to the Royal Hibernian Military School, Phoenix Park, as his father was appointed there as chaplain. His experiences in the area as a young child resulted in the Phoenix Park, the church and village of Chapelizod and the surrounding countryside that is now Ballyfermot, all featuring in Le Fanu's writings, perhaps most famously in the novel The Church by the Courtyard. The centre of the story is a dark web of intrigue surrounding a military doctor who is on the brink of bankruptcy, who tries to blackmail a murderer and is later discovered in the Phoenix Park with his head clubbed in. The official name of the Dublin City Council Park, known to the locals as the Lawns, is Le Fanu Park, and a nearby road also carries his name. Le Fanu was legendary for changing the nature of the Victorian ghost story. He used psychological insight and ghostly terror to evoke fright in his readers. Le Fanu was a scholar at Trinity College, Dublin, and went on to study law at King's Inns in London. He published his first ghost story, The Ghost and the Bone Setter, in the Dublin University magazine in 1838. He was the owner of a newspaper called The Warder, and throughout his life owned stakes in a number of publications. His earliest 12 short stories, written between 1838 and 1840, purport to be the literary remains of a priest called Father Purcell. They are mostly set in Ireland and include some classic stories of gothic horror with gloomy castles, supernatural visitations from beyond the grave, madness and suicide. Also apparent are nostalgia and sadness for the dispossessed Catholic aristocracy of Ireland. In 1847, Le Fanu supported the campaign against the indifference of the government to the Irish famine. Uncle Silas is a macabre mystery novel of gothic horror. The novel is told from the point of view of an heiress living with her reclusive father. She learns of her uncle Silas, an infamous gambler. His reputation has been tainted by the suspicious suicide of a man to whom he owed an enormous debt, which took place within Silas's mansion. Carmilla is a gothic novella and one of the early works of vampire fiction, predating Dracula by 26 years. The story is narrated by a young woman, preyed upon by a female vampire. The character is a prototypical example of the lesbian vampire, expressing romantic desires towards the protagonist. The novella notably never acknowledges this trait, leaving it subtle and morally ambiguous. The story has been adapted many times in film and other media.
She was slender and wonderfully graceful, except that her movements were languid, very languid. Indeed, there was nothing in her appearance to indicate an invalid. Her murmured words sounded like a lullaby in my ear and soothed my resistance into a trance. I experienced a strange, tumultuous excitement that was pleasurable, ever and anon mingled with a vague sense of fear and disgust.
In 1844, Le Fanu married Susanna Bennett. They had 4 children, but their marriage was plagued by Susanna's ill health and financial difficulties. They took a house in Warrington Place near the Grand Canal in Dublin. She bore him 3 children. His wife suffered from increasing neurotic symptoms and from anxiety after the deaths of several close relatives. In April 1858, she had a hysterical attack and died the following day in unclear circumstances. Le Fanu was devastated. "The greatest misfortune of my life has overtaken me," My darling wife is gone. She was the light of my life. In the following years, Le Fanu published several novels, some in his traditional mystery style and some romances. Although he might not be as well known as Bram Stoker, Mary Shelley, or Edgar Allan Poe, Le Fanu's books continue to draw new audiences. Le Fanu died of a heart attack in his native Dublin on the 7th of February 1873 at the age of 58. According to one report, Le Fanu is believed to have literally died of fright.
It was long before the terror of recent events subsided, and to this hour the image of Carmilla returns to memory with ambiguous alternations. Sometimes the playful, languid, beautiful girl, sometimes the writhing fiend I saw in the ruined church, and often from a reverie I have started, fancying I heard the light step of Carmilla at the drawing room door.